said that sonic healing, the term is about kind of music regenerating you. And what better theme for right now after a year that everybody has had than sonic healing, musical regeneration, man? How does it feel to have this record out after the last year that you've had?
Oh, man, just, the thing is, like, when Kurt and I originally set out, I just knew that I wanted to do some old school, kind of classic rock inspired, and I wanted to just keep it real positive. Yeah. And it was like a lifesaver to me to work on this music, because it was, I had shut my business down. I run a manufacturing company, and we manufacture bar and restaurant equipment, so we're like centered right in the bullseye of the, the shutdowns, basically, with all the food service, hospitality, entertainment industry. And so it was a depressing time for me too. So, the album really helped me through that, the creation of it. And it also was just such a wonderful experience, because Kurt and I wrote this entire album in like a month. So it was like, there are just these magical moments sometimes that you have in music where things just really come together. And this was like an amazing, I've had it happen with songs before where I feel like a song goes together, but this was like an entire album. 15 songs that just all pop. And so it means the world to me. I think, also in terms of being able to share it with people, I'm just hoping, when I was younger, music, it seemed like a lot of the classic rock and the music in the late 70s and the early 80s, and in general, music brings a lot of positivity to people's lives, but I think back then it was just more so, I think there was just excitement around the music because there wasn't all the social media, so you really didn't know the musicians. So the only way you could get to know them was by studying the album cover or by going to see them live and stuff like that, and reading about it in a magazine. And it was just the excitement and the energy, and everybody wanted to be backstage. All of that. And so I guess for me, that's really what the vibe I was trying to capture. And I think, like you mentioned, during this time, I think we need it more than anything.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned trying to put, kind of make it a classic rock feel and vibe, because the very first note I made when I started listening to this record is, if you put Miles Kennedy in a band of the 70s or 80s, you would have this record. That's because you have that vocal style with the multiple octaves, all that stuff, man. That's exactly the vibe that I got. It's nice. That's awesome. And one song that stands out to me is Running After You. That song just makes me smile for some reason, man. Listening to that, I feel like I can go out on the interstate, go 90 miles an hour, put the windows down, and just let that song wash over me, dude. That song is so good.
I appreciate that.
Definitely.
I really love that song too. And actually, when that was, I think that was actually the first song that I wrote with Kurt. Because he had dumped like 5-6 songs on me at first. Like, he's like, I'm going to get started. And then so and a few days later, he dumped like 5 or 6 songs on me, because he would keep loading them to Dropbox for me to look at, because he's in California, I'm in Michigan. And then every day or two, he would be loading another song. And then I started doing the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll take it back. And so this was the first one that struck me. And there was something about that chorus and how it opened up like that. And I remember sending it back to him and listening to it. And he's like, oh yeah, like that's got it. And it really is a favorite of mine. And it was one I debated having for a single. The challenge you have with it as a video, though, is like, it's more of a build-up song. It kind of starts slower and like a ballad, and it takes about 2 minutes to get to that money chorus, So I think ultimately we thought, well, we better have something that brings the energy a little quicker, you know what I mean, for the video. But yeah, no, I absolutely love that song. I'm a little scared of that song if it becomes a hit, because it's kind of hard to sing. That chorus is pretty tough. So.
That's one song that you don't always think about when you're putting a song together, is like, what if I have to sing the song live? Like, what if the song takes off? Because I know when Godsmack released Under Your Scars, they're like, I don't think we're ever going to play that live. It's so different. I don't know if we will. And it became a hit. They're like, oh, well, we're playing it now.
I guess we get to play it live. Right. That's one of those. That's one of those songs where that chorus is that note. Like, I can do higher notes than that, but as a singer, there's a natural, what I would call, break between your chest voice and your head voice. And it's an area that you have to be able to sing through. And when you go to sing a note in that area, you have to decide, am I going to hit this with my chest, or am I going to hit it with my head voice? And if you hit it with your chest, I call it kind of a red ball of fire that can be really hard to control and hold on to. And that note is right in that spot for me where it's like I just have to go for it, and which sounds funny because, like I said, I can hit a lot higher than that too, but that just happens to be where it's at in the range, and but for whatever reason, yeah, I just really love the way that song opened up on the chorus.
That might have to be one of those songs where you sing on a show where you have like a day off or two in between shows, so you can kind of rest it and recover, like just to be safe.
Actually, I think what it is, it's one of those songs where it's best to perform it with, a loud band around you and stuff like that. Because I'm trying to imagine doing an acoustic version where all of a sudden I just got a wail on the chorus, and it'd be like, okay, because you're not just gonna do a little falsetto thing.
Right.
It's like,
oh man.
So we'll see. But yeah, we're hoping. Kurt and I kind of have a little fantasy that we'll get some opportunity to play these songs live and play a few shows. You just got to see what the demand is and see what happens with all this COVID madness. But it'd be really nice to play some shows and kind of be like a legit band, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask about Kurt because I watching some of the videos that you put out, like, you hadn't actually worked and written with Kurt before this record came about, but from what it sounds like, it was almost like just a match made in heaven, just without having worked together before. I mean, it had to have been surprising when it went as well as it did, not having worked with him before, because that's rare for that kind of a relationship.
Yeah, it really was. And I think what was interesting for me, too, is the experience of someone who writes the way he does.
Yeah.
Kurt, it's like he's almost like this little Svengali where what he does is he just says, okay, I'm getting in creative mode and I'm going to start. And once I do, that's his sole focus. So he just takes the time off and that's his sole focus. And literally in 21 days, he gave me nice sounding polished demos on 18 songs.
Wow.
I mean, to me, that's insane. I can't even believe it. But he's just like, no, I'm just going to start channeling it, and I'm just going to keep churning stuff out, and we'll see what happens. Because I actually gave him 25 of my own songs, and he listened to them, and they were pretty finished demos of stuff. And he listened to them and said, hey, you got some great stuff there, but why don't we start by me just channeling and seeing what we come up with. And man, he was so amazing and came up with such great stuff that we just never even got back around to my ideas. So everything on the album was brand new and written just for this album, and written over, because basically you add another week to it, and that's about the time it took me to finish all the lyrics and vocal melodies for the album. I mean, it was stupidly amazing. I mean, it helped. I mean, that's the ironic part. I had shut down my factory for 3 weeks, and even when it reopened a little bit, I still wasn't really working full time as an office person. And so I was able to put an amazing amount of focus in it, so that helped. But yeah, it was just, I was unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like it. And so yeah, working with him was just incredible. And you're right. Yeah, we didn't know. I had met him in 2016, I think, when I've known of him for years, but I never knew him in person. But Riot opened up for Metal Church in Switzerland, and so at the Z7 Club. So I'd met him, and I remember him watching a sound check and being like, "Oh, I love Swords and Tequila." It's a classic Riot song, and so I sat with him at the table and we chatted a little bit. And but we didn't stay personally connected after that. We got reconnected when Joe from Rat Pack connected us, and I was just happy because I told Joe, I said, "Look, I need somebody to help me turn my ideas into the hard rock sound that I want." And as it turns out, I got the hard rock sound that I wanted, but it wasn't even with my songs. It was with, and Kurt is just, I don't know, he's a brilliant songwriter. It's amazing.
Right. So I mean, and then obviously he's in the band and he's in the videos. I mean, connecting physically in person, being able to play on these videos, when it's got to make you more eager to want to do live shows now with him, because it's he's on the record, he wrote the record with you, you did these videos with him, he's performing with you, and now it's now we just wait.
Well, that's exactly what it was like. And what I did is I flew, and part of the reason it took so long to get the album out is just took forever to make stuff. So I finally, I was going to have a 2-week break at work anyway, so I flew out to LA at the end of December to film the videos. And, we had 2 solid days of just sitting there jamming together, basically, these videos. I mean, granted, you're kind of miming the music, but you're still playing. I can't just mime. I tend to sing anyway, which they all thought was humorous. And, and so, yeah, we got done, and we're like, man, I'm ready for some live shows now,
Right. And California is not the state to be doing videos if you want to do live shows right now. So
exactly.
But I guess what I want to know, man, is there a difference between writing with Riot and then writing for yourself when it's because this has you all over it. These are your songs. These are you. This is you, as opposed to with like Riot or Burning Star or any of the other projects you've done.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, ultimately, I do write music all by myself, and so there's certain things that would be like all me. I think what happens when I write with other people is that it becomes like kind of this blend of them and me.
Yeah.
Now, the difference in this project is like if you look at something like Burning Star or if you look at something like Riot, I'm not really kind of controlling the direction, so to speak. Jack Starr was really dominant in doing that. I mean, and Mike and Donnie that write in Riot are the same way.
Sure.
And so, and even Mike and Donnie, they have ultimate say over vocal melodies. So I can make up melodies, but if they don't like them, it's like, no, we don't want to use that. We're going to use this one instead. And frankly, I mean, we work together well. Don't get me wrong. But they can be annoying. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I really like my melody. What the hell, And so that was I think the thing here is I feel like with this project, I mean, obviously, I don't even know is it really a solo album? I mean, it's got my name on it, so it's a solo album, but it's really a combination of Kurt and I. It's really more of a duo, but we just didn't really want to have a duo name. We're just going to put under my name. And so, I mean, ultimately, I couldn't have done this by myself. I absolutely needed Kurt to do this. But I think in terms of going to Kurt, explaining the vision I want, and talking about my love for classic rock and then his shared love for it, I think we kind of really hit the nail on the head with what we wanted to do. And then clearly all the vocal melodies were mine. I mean, there were times when he would be like, okay, what about this? And what about this lyric? I mean, we could bounce stuff off each other, but it was kind of like, he had music, I had lyrics and vocal melodies, and it was just, so I do feel like it's just totally me. It's like exactly what I wanted to do. And so I do like that part of it for sure.
And a similar question, is there any difference between working with Rat Pack as opposed to, the other labels that you've been with, like Nuclear Blast, Steamhammer with Riot, or is that more just like a business thing and you don't really feel a difference there? Does that even affect you as an artist at all?
To me, working with Joe at Rat Pack is like, to me, it feels totally, and maybe it's because, like Donnie from Riot heads the contract and he's the main guy, but to me, in my experience, this felt like a true partnership with Joe. I mean, with other record labels, there's a bit of a black box, like, okay, this is the unknown stuff, and it's just kind of this mysterious thing, and little things will pop out of it, so to speak. Yeah. Whereas with Joe, it's like a complete open book. You know exactly what all's happening, what all costs are going in, this, that, and whatever have you, and you don't get that with other record labels. With other record labels, you get, well, here's your money up front, and then you're never going to see another penny because they always have an excuse as to why you didn't sell enough or whatever they got. And I don't mean to bash the other record labels, but frankly, I run my own company with Open Book Management. Every week I send an operating statement down. The employees know how much money we made all the way down the bottom line. So almost 200 employees, know exactly what's going to happen. If we fill a bucket, what percentage payout they're going to get, and that's unusual. And that's really more how Joe runs his business. And that's my preferred way to do things. The other thing that's different about Joe is he just has a lot of the other record labels have almost like abandoned physical sales in a way. Yeah. And there's also this notion of they just churn out the new music. Every 5 seconds there's a new album coming out, and they've got this standard little formula for how things get promoted. And Joe just does a lot more special things to really emphasize the physical product, connect you with the fans and stuff. Yeah. And I think that part makes it a big difference. So, so it's kind of, so I think that in that part is interesting. I think on one hand, if you're on a bigger record label, I think you can maybe you get more views on your video, but views on a video doesn't necessarily translate to sales of an album
at all.
Because there's a lot of people that, and so I think that's the difference with Joe, in my opinion.
Yeah, and a lot of artists on Rat Pack that I've talked to have said the same thing. It's a relationship, and it doesn't always even necessarily feel like a business relationship. It's just a relationship. And going back to what you said, we're like, it's almost like he's like they're okay with you knowing everything and seeing all of this stuff. Whereas some of the major labels sometimes I feel like don't always necessarily want you to see everything.
It's all hidden. You don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of money that goes into promoting an album and putting it all together. I don't think people would really even begin to fathom, And then relative to, like, I frankly, I don't even know how you do it, because you'll see all these, and I won't mention a particular record label, but whatever, you see these record label and then things come out, and then you go look at the artist and they'll sell like 300 copies of their album, and it's like, I don't know how they make money doing this. You know what I mean? It's just, and I'm not bashing anybody. What I'm saying is that's kind of more the state of affairs in the market nowadays. It's tough out there.
Yeah, it's all about what you're looking to do as an artist too, as well. But I wanted to ask you about The Voice. I know you said in videos that you took, you were out of the business for a little bit. Was joining The Voice and going that direction, a way of kind of easing your way back into music and kind of testing the waters again? And what was that experience like?
Well, I was out of music, but that really was basically from about 96 until like 2004. And that's where I was really concentrated on family and work and stuff. And frankly, the music scene had changed, and there's just like my brother reached a point where he wanted a singer that sounded like the guy from Pantera. You know, I can't sing like that. So I'm like, okay, you do your thing. And I started that's when I picked up guitar and started learning how to play guitar back in 96. And so I just had this period where I was working on music a little bit, but I just wasn't performing. I wasn't really doing a whole lot. And then in 2004, that's when I got in Burning Star, and then we had an album come out in 2009 and all. So I actually started up about the mid-aughts, and things were heating up pretty good for me. By getting in Riot, I was playing shows all over the world and this and that. So really the Voice to me was more of like, I don't know, I just thought I had been starting to create my own music, and I thought, well, it might be interesting to go on there. And my own music, when I write by myself, it tends to come out sound a little poppy. So I thought, I'll go on and see what happens. And I also had this, I had that Jukebox Hero song in mind the whole time, because I really wanted to go on national TV and hit those high head notes at the end of that song and just see what people thought, you know. And so really for me, it was a little more experiential. Like, I'm pretty set, you know, I'm not like a millionaire. I don't have to work, but I'm saying I'm pretty set financially. I've got a job. Actually this year was 30 years. I've been working full time at the family business. I mean, so I've been doing this for a while, and by concentrating on work for a while, it reached the point where now I can have a little more flexibility. If I want to take a little time off to go play some shows with Riot or do this or do that. And so for me, The Voice it was really experiential. I just wanted to see what the experience was like. I'm like, geez, I wonder if I could get on TV, you know, and obviously you have those fantasies that things will get big, but I'm not stupid. Like, I can look and see that there's really not artists from The Voice that are huge. You know what I mean? So I knew I wasn't going to all of a sudden become Carrie Underwood or something, but you know, but I thought it'd be fun, and it can't hurt to get that exposure. So I don't know. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it, and it was a wonderful experience. And you know, I definitely was worth doing in my mind. You know, I know there was some debate. Well, why would an established singer go on there or whatever? But I mean, I might be pretty established in the heavy metal world, but nobody on your average person knows who I am. So I don't, you know.
Yeah, rock and metal is almost like underground anymore for them, unless you're like Alice Cooper or like Nickelback, or it seems like, you know, or Slipknot.
Yeah,
even
you're an
Slipknot,
establishment
you know?
act. Yeah, a legacy act, something like that. There are a few ones that peek in here and there, but it's pretty far and few between. It's tough. What there really is in music is it's just so it's so splintered now, and some people will really surprise you. You'll find someone that you've never heard of, and then you go check their website, and like they've got millions of views on a video, or hundreds of thousands, and they've got lots of 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify or whatever. And you're like, wow, I've never even heard of these cats, and they are rock. So there is some out there, but it's just it's not so obvious, and it's definitely not mainstream radio. It seems like mainstream radio is either classic rock, you know, or it's totally taken over by stuff that's a pop with the hip hop vibe and all that.
Right, or it's these alternative folk bands that people are trying to spin as rock, but it's not rock. You know, it's like the Lumineers aren't freaking rock. So, you know, but it's also interesting because like when you started really belting that song out, like I feel like everybody really does like rock. Like John Legend even stood up. It was like into it, you know, like all of these guys love rock. So it is still popular in some way. I just wish those shows kind of featured it more, had more of a rock presence. But even all of those artists love rock, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, there is an energy about rock, and especially when it's performed live, that's undeniable. And I'm not bashing The Voice, but if you look at The Voice, you can see they don't, you know, they want that a little bit, but like like if you look at, say, one of their specials toward the end where you get into the top four and all that stuff, it's funny because they'll come out and they'll do like a group song that's kind of rocking, and then when everybody else comes to do their songs, they're these like mid-tempo, whatever, low energy things, and it's like for the performance, and it's like why, and but you could see with me, I mean, like the first song was my pick. After that, it started to change, and you could kind of see where it went, and so. And I'm not bashing them, so I'm definitely not bashing them, but it's tough. I think people do like rock, but I think overall maybe with that show it's a little more sentimentally ballady. I don't know. It's tough to say. I never really thought I would win, really, but I certainly was trying my best,
Right.
But I wasn't worried about that because it really didn't matter to me if I won or didn't win. I didn't necessarily think my life would change even if I did win. I wasn't win. I wouldn't have quit my job or anything.
Right.
So.
Right. It's just I always get so excited when there is like a singer that does like the rock songs on those shows because it gets so exciting. It puts rock on a national like pedestal and all that, or a national level. It's so cool, and I just get excited when that stuff happens. And going back to the record, man. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to hear one fun thing, for the four-way knockout, there was like 4 songs that it kind of got narrowed down to that I could have sung, and one of those songs was Dio, Holy Diver, so that would have been awesome.
Oh, man.
But they didn't give it to me.
Oh, man, that would have been so good. Oh, man. But going back to the record, man, with Sonic Healing, man, there's so, like, every song has its own identity, man. You got a song like, Love Rain Down, the title track, they all sound different. There's like the one we talked about Running After You, but then like Love Rain Down, and a lot of the others have that gritty, old school, throwback, classic rock. I freaking love it, man. Did you want to do obviously Kurt wrote a lot of the music, but were you guys wanting to have each song have its own identity and just different levels, different styles of the classic rock in there? Or is that just what came out?
I think what it was is like, when you look at classic rock, there is a decent variety across the band. And I think so we were trying to achieve that. I mean, I think if you listen to the album, sonically, it sounds like it's kind of all in the same place. I think it's helped by the fact that Kurt's doing the music, I'm doing the singing, so that definitely ties it all together. And I think the overall attitude and even the kind of the inspiration of it is pretty consistent. But yeah, you're right. We didn't, obviously you don't want every song to sound the same too. Yeah. So I think there's I'm agreeing with you in that I think there's a pretty decent variety of songs, even though overall I think it's a pretty focused package.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the tough question is, what's the rest of the year look like? I mean, obviously we all want shows to come back. We want touring. I mean, are we looking at some dates down the road possibly? Or are we looking at maybe regional shows? Or, I mean, what does it look like kind of?
Yeah, I would love to. With Riot, we tend to play mostly international shows.
Yeah.
Following's not as big in the U.S., hard to book shows in the U.S., that sort of stuff, whatever. And part of the reason it's hard to book shows in the U.S. is we're all older and, like, we need to kind of, I'm in a little more of a blessed situation, but, for most people, when you leave your job, you don't have a source of income. You got to make money doing what you're doing if you're going to be gone for 2-3 weeks because you got bills to pay when you get home. And so, I think because of that, it makes touring the U.S. hard. I think for Kurt, we'd have to just see what the opportunity is. I don't think it would be easy for me to headline. So I think because I'm not out and people don't know me that much. But so I was kind of fantasizing that maybe we could find like an opener spot and go out with a band. But even that could be tough because a lot of these opener spots, you got to pay to be on the tour and stuff. So it's weird. I mean, it's weird how it works. So I think ultimately it just comes down to, how much people, pay attention. I'm telling you, there's so many distractions that getting, so I really appreciate you doing this interview because getting people to even notice me or paying attention is so hard, and every little bit makes a big difference. And so I would say for me, I'm excited. I know for sure what's coming for me later this year is recording vocals for the next Riot album. Awesome. I do not believe Riot will be playing any shows till next summer, so I have wide open time if we could try to book some shows. And so it's something I think Kurt and Joe at the Record Label and I, we're just going to have to kind of keep it in mind and see if there's any opportunity.